Hi
Okay.
everyone, Casey here with Wellbeing Connections, and I just wanted to introduce you to our first new content special where we're sharing some resources to help you grow your well-being. One of the ways at Wellbeing Connections that we grow well-being is through our breathe-in framework, where we talk about beliefs and regulation, emotions, awareness, our thoughts, habits, our energy, and then wrap that all up nicely with our integration and navigation. And so today we've got Amanda with Amanda White Wellness, who's going to share with us a little bit about how she helps individuals, clients, specifically women, navigate this world. So, Amanda, tell me a little bit about how you got started.
Sure. Yeah. So I have been a nurse for, oh gosh, I have to separate like coaching time versus like when I started like working as a nurse. So I've been a nurse in a traditional role for about it was 6 years. And during that time kind of started realizing that how I was feeling called to really step in and help people and support people, feeling like gaining their health journey, like following their health journey, attaining their goals, things like that. I was not able to do. So I ended up going and getting a certification through the American Holistic Nurses credentialing services
Yeah.
for holistic coaching. And from there started my coaching business.
Yeah, with that holistic piece, was there anything that you either took away or brought you to that holistic style of coaching versus some of the other styles of coaching that are out there? About that holistic offering for the coaching brought you to that to choose that offering maybe over some of the more clinical type styles of coaching.
Got it. Yeah. So with holistic, I feel like in medicine in general, we focus too much on symptoms and we're
Hmm.
treating the symptoms.
Yeah.
And when like even in nursing school, you're taught about holistic health and nurses say like traditionally being trained to do holistic health, but
Mhm.
you're really incorporating so you've got the physical symptom, the emotional health, and then your spiritual health is all integrated into that. And I started realizing that conventionally we're looking at mental health and physical health as two different entities when they're very much intertwined. And then your emotional health and your spiritual health is kind of just overlooked at out, in general. And I found that you can't really address one without addressing the other ones, or at least assessing them and
Yeah.
seeing where the person is out with it.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's like you in a like a general sense, but like if you're just treating symptoms, you're only looking at literally a fraction of that person's health. And then they're left with this frustration of why am I not getting better? Why are things getting worse? Or like we addressed this, but then this is now popping up
Hmm.
and we're not looking at the whole the whole
Yes.
being.
Really saw the holistic as an opportunity to serve the whole person, not just
Yeah.
bits and pieces, to really maximize not only the symptom relief, but also how to maybe prevent or minimize this from happening again, or dig a
Yeah.
little bit deeper as to how we got here and maybe to make more sustainable change moving forward. So, really, just
Yes.
that opportunity to broaden that impact, to deepen that
Mm-hmm.
impact for more lasting change versus that immediate relief of alleviating
Right.
whatever symptom that is, whether that's taking a deep breath through a stressful moment, whether that's an acute pain from like
Mm-hmm.
a nursing true physical health perspective, but really integrating and looking at the whole person was what interested you
Mm-hmm.
after kind of seeing from a traditional nursing perspective, maybe some of the pieces that maybe traditional healthcare system doesn't have the time, resources, energy,
Yeah.
expertise to address.
Yep. Yeah. That was like one of the biggest things that I would get feedback on when I was working bedside is just I spent too much time in the patient's room. And
Oh,
it's just
yeah.
like how but like if I mean I worked on an ortho neuro floor, so
Mhm.
there's lots of big things that I would help patients manage and I'm just like how can you not? If
Yeah.
they've got questions and they're scared or stressed or unsure, like how can you not stay with them and help them through that.
Yeah, really giving them that full experience,
Yeah.
full human experience, the support throughout that really brought
Yes.
you to seeking additional training and education to best
Yes.
serve your patients from the bedside, which
Hmm.
then just kind of leading in kind of to that next point, I would assume kind of broadened and opened maybe a door for you to create Amanda White Wellness. So kind of
Yeah.
thinking it is or was there a specific instance that kind of pushed you or pushed the door open to kind of create this as a business or an offering that you yourself wanted to provide? Was there, tell me about kind of that catalyst to, hey, I really see there's legs to this and I want to share this.
Yeah. From a little bit of a stubborn aspect for
Yeah.
sure, where because as a nurse, I worked in a few different roles. I was a case manager for a hospice company. I worked in office setting for sports medicine, podiatry, and orthopedics, and then I was bedside, so inside the hospital on an orthopedic and neuro floor. And every single time I enjoyed those roles and I liked what I was doing to an extent, but I always felt like I had like one hand tied behind my back, where it's just I could half serve people the
Yeah.
way that I really felt called to do. And I remember I was having a conversation with my husband, and when I knew that I wanted to pursue the coaching certification, and I was toying with the idea of, okay, let me get this certification and then open up my own business. And I was having this conversation with him, and I'm like, is it really like what I should do? It's because like when you have something big placed on your heart, it's really hard to quiet the your internal doubter and not listen to that. So we were having a conversation one night, and and I was just like, I don't know, like, maybe if I'm doing this and I'm bringing it into another business, like maybe that will be better, and it's safer because you're not doing your own thing. And he's like, no, he's like, you don't fit in that scenario. It's like every single time you've been with a company, you've liked it to a point, but you've always ended up really unhappy because you don't fit in there. And it's because what you are wanting to do cannot exist within the confines and the regulations and restrictions that a larger company entity.
Yeah, the services you really wanted to provide, that comprehensive
Yeah.
approach, didn't fit in the boxes that currently existed. So
Yeah.
he saw from an outside perspective, hey,
Yeah.
create your own box, girl. You
Yeah.
you have enough to stand on your own. This is something
Hmm.
different and exciting and allows you to serve people in the best
Hmm.
way that you see fit to not only maybe provide that nursing, that clinical expertise, because again, from your
Yes.
variety of experiences, the clinic versus bedside versus
Hmm.
hospice, all completely varied, but also bringing in that those other pieces of wellness, the spiritual, the mental, the physical, the
Yeah.
emotional, and being able to give clients, patients the time and energy on those topics that you
Yeah.
felt that they deserved.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
Yep.
I think, like you said, quieting that internal voice of maybe questioning or doubt, but also having somebody to neutral to process that with who maybe
Yes.
doesn't have the emotional buy-in is such
Yeah.
a great tool for all of us in life to when we're kind of processing through those big decisions is okay, hey,
Hmm.
get that outside neutral perspective where they're not maybe as emotionally invested or
Hmm.
okay, having that doubt or that okay, I'm so confident like I can't even think about the ways that this could fail.
Yeah.
Having that to process and brainstorm ideas to set it up for success sounds like you've got everything kind of built from that strong foundation. So,
Yep.
excuse me. You guys, or you really kind of take into consideration that whole person approach from the mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. Tell me a little bit more about who you really serve and how that kind
Hmm.
of aligns with well-being connections breathe in framework. Are there some, so kind of thinking two part here, who you really serve and then kind of how that coincides with some of the features that well-being connection promotes kind of from that general building resilience from a number of those capacities.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely I focus on women and working a lot with women. A big thing that I actually feel like it was just like divine timing and divinely guided. Closer to the end of my certification course that I was in, and just happened to stumble upon the impact of a woman's cycle in her fitness.
Okay.
And I was, I found a gal on Instagram and I started following her and I was listening to some of the stuff that she was saying and I was able to kind of like stop and reflect on that. And I was like, because I enjoy running. And I could think back to times where I'm just like, I would go on a mile, like I would, when my daughter was younger, I'd be pushing her in a stroller. So pushing a child in a stroller, be able to go for like a 4 mile run, end it, and I'd be like, this is amazing. I can do this 10 times over. And not, I'm just like, woohoo. And then a week later, I go for the same run, pushing the same stroller, same kid on the same route. So it's like, because when you
Yeah.
do different routes, like you can go up where you previously went down or
Right, right, right.
whatever the case may be. And I would not even be a full mile in and I would start like sucking for air. And I'm
Yeah.
like, why can't I do this? And slowly started realizing that, or like even through this one account, that depending on where you're at in your cyclical phase, impacts energy
Yeah.
and the drive that you have. And I was like, well, that's interesting. So I was like, okay, I'm like, cool. So I can keep running. I'll just adjust my times and I won't mentally beat myself up when I need to go slower. I'd be like, okay, well, this is hormonally where I'm at, like because of the phase that I'm in. So I'm going to slow down. And it's not because I'm fat. It's not because I'm lazy. It's not because there's something deficient or wrong with me.
Right,
And
right.
then I was talking with an old neighbor, and she was telling me how she came across a gal who talks about fasting,
Mm,
intermittent fasting for women. I was previously taught and told like fasting is awful for women. They shouldn't do it. It messes with their hormones, things like that.
yeah.
Well, though I fully agree with all of her teachings. I think some of them hold weight. And I just found it interesting again, where it's like, it's not that women shouldn't fast. Like her whole thing is just they should fast with their cycle. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Well, I'm like, if we're supposed to work out different and if we're supposed to fast different, like how else does this impact us?
Yeah. What
That no
else?
one ever knew.
Yeah. What else changes cyclically from
Yes.
a holistic approach? And where can I
Yes.
support women? Wow.
Yes.
I didn't know that running was kind of your introduction into it because it like
Yes.
it allows you to put some logic to why things are the way they are. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, and it's like, it's one of those things where I feel like, they always say, like, give yourself grace, or,
Yeah.
if you need to slow down, okay. If you need to do a little less, okay. And like meet yourself where you're at. Like, there's a lot of those sayings out there, but I
Well,
feel like women are notoriously hard on themselves. And I feel like it's because we live in a society that runs primarily in masculine energy. Not
mhm.
that men are bad. That's not at all the message that I want to send, because good, healthy masculinity is something that women need in order to
Yeah.
thrive and to
Yeah.
show up and exist in their feminine. Um, and I feel like a lot of women just mirror society, which keeps them performing, thinking, doing, judging in a masculine energy type of way, which
Yeah.
completely disconnects them from their feminine. So I feel like that's more of the emotional, the mental, and to an extent, even the spiritual side of us.
Yeah.
Um, and it just completely disconnects us to that. And my belief after my experience professionally and personally and my own research, I mean, it's something like 80% of autoimmune cases are diagnosed in women. And I feel like that's because of unnecessary stress, mentally, physically, and emotionally, that we are putting ourselves under trying to perform and live like men do in a masculine energy society, instead of being like, this is the world, but this is me as a woman and understanding my body. And now I get to choose how do I show up while still keeping up and while achieving all of my goals and still being happy and healthy.
Yeah. So really creating your lived experience, really understanding how that awareness of what's happening for you with your cycle and all of the things that that impacts, whether that's energy and habits, emotions, and
Mm-hmm.
how that shows up in our world today, what that means for each individual, and how that impacts, again, all of those places we show up in our lives. Like
Yeah.
you mentioned, the world does tend to lean towards that masculinity. And so where is that friction coming in our lives, and how
Yeah.
does that manifest, whether that's through stress or different ways it shows up for each one of us? And so
Mm-hmm.
really supporting people in gaining that understanding and awareness so that way they can put some logic and reasoning as to why they're experiencing certain things in their body physically, whether
Mm-hmm.
that's mentally, maybe that inner dialogue of, I want to go here, but why does it feel like I can't? That's not an option.
Yeah.
Whether that's spiritually creating space and calm and peace when the world seems to move at a pace that is unsustainable, or like you said, the emotional aspect of it, of maybe
Mm-hmm.
stuffing those feelings, really gaining that awareness of, oh, here's where that's rooted in that,
Yeah.
whether that's self-worth or past experience of, hey, I didn't deal with this and this is how it's
Yeah.
manifesting today. Really starting with that reflecting on that lived experience to
Mm-hmm.
create awareness of where you're at today, so you
Mm-hmm.
can move forward in a way that really supports the whole person moving forward. And like you
Yeah.
said, really niching that down to your expertise is supporting women using their cycle as kind of that guide and framework to really
Mm-hmm.
support that structure of, okay, where am I at, to put context to things. Is that a fair kind of summary of that?
Yeah, I would say. So, I mean, there's a lot of, I feel like I share a lot of education, like even on like my social medias and things like that. Like there's a lot of education that I share. I believe like the one-on-one or like the coaching aspect comes into helping connect the bridge between the information and application to like their everyday lives.
Yeah.
Because like so many times I'm like I would share something and then I'd be in a session with someone and they would say something and I would like reflect that piece of information back to them and it's like they don't even realize it's like, oh, that's what this is.
Yeah.
Like now this is what this, oh, it's like, oh, okay. Like got it.
Yeah,
So
really tying those things together. So from that breathe in framework, that really that integration, you're there to help them integrate that education piece of, okay, here's what's
yeah.
happening or how we got here. Now, how do I move forward in a way that's personalized to me? And that's one service
Hmm.
that you offer through your one-on-ones, correct? Where
Yes,
you can
yeah.
really help them take those nuggets of information that really resonate with them, that you provide, that education piece. Now, how do I really execute my day-to-day living with
Yeah.
this piece of information that I want to prioritize, that is valuable to me? And that navigation, you're that support along the way of saying, okay, hey,
Hmm.
here's how it might look at this phase of your cycle. Here's how it might look at this phase of that cycle. So you have some
Yeah.
context to what giving yourself grace might look like, or when to
Yeah.
kind of lean in and challenge yourself and say, you know what? I've got the energy. Here's that time to push. And here's when that push is not going to cause undue stress. But my
Yeah.
body and mind are mentally and spiritually, emotionally prepared for that. They're ready for
Yeah.
that. To really just lean into those natural rhythms and cycles that the body has
Hmm.
versus maybe trying to be so rigid with showing up with that same thing every single day, expecting that
Yeah.
same thing out of ourselves when that's maybe not the best fit to move forward.
Yep. Yeah. Like we are literally not the same person. Women, I should say, are not the same person day to day
Right.
because of hormonal and fluctuation or hormonal fluctuations that we have. And like self-care in one phase might look completely different in another phase. Like self-care for me in say like when I'm getting closer to ovulation is energy it's energy giving
Yeah.
basically. It's, if I'm in the kitchen, that's when I want to listen to music and dance as I'm doing what, like cooking, cleaning, whatever the case in there.
Yeah.
And like just living that up, where it's like if you caught me a week and a half later after that, and I'm in a deeper set in my luteal phase, so like later on in your cycle, if someone was like, let's listen to music and dance, I'd be like, yeah, that's a hot no. Like that's where I want to slow down. That's where I want to sit
Ah,
and listen to a meditation. That's when I want to take a bath with a candle and really like immerse myself and create a certain experience. Like
ah,
it's so I feel like a lot of women will go to social media or go to their friends or go to look at someone that is like, well, they claim to have this problem that's similar to my problem,
right.
and this is what they did to fix it, or they're sharing like a snippet of their information, so then they just try to take that and apply it to them, and they're like, okay, cool, well, this person lifts 3 days a week and they eat this way and stuff like that, so I'm going to do that all the time. And we get caught because we'll have a time period in the month where we feel good and it's working, and
Yeah.
then it won't work, and then we're like, okay, well, why isn't it working anymore? Is there something more wrong with me? So
Mm,
then it becomes a I'm the issue, I'm still a problem, I need to figure it out, when it's just no, it's just you're doing too much or not enough of what is filling you, and you're just becoming more and more depleted. So
yeah.
it's having that understanding.
Yeah, really, you come alongside your clients and help them kind of create that plan that's going to evolve with them
Hmm.
throughout each phase of their cycle. So again, versus maybe somebody trying to cherry pick those bits and pieces
Hmm.
from friends, family, the internet, which we all know is the wild, wild west of things
Yes.
that work and don't
Yes.
work. But again, really trying, and then oftentimes that's met with that frustration of
Hmm.
this should work for me. This should work. This works for so and so. Why doesn't it work for me? Where you can come
Hmm.
alongside your clients and really support them and say, hey, this is going to work for you. Let's figure out what works for you at this stage, at this, excuse me, phase of your cycle. But then what of those pieces need to stay and what needs to change as you
Hmm.
evolve throughout those different phases of your cycle to
Yeah.
best nurture the whole person. So again, coming
Hmm.
from that, not only that physical aspect of maybe moving your body or nutrition, but also, like you said, that emotional regulation piece of being able to
Yeah.
process and handle maybe a change in why am I a little bit short fused with my
Yeah.
husband or spouse, my loved ones, my children, work, where is that lack of energy coming from? Because my sleep is pretty much stayed the same or nothing major
Hmm.
has changed, where you can really help them navigate those cyclical changes to
Hmm.
really help them have that complete well-being, that holistic well-being supported for them as a whole person.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
And
that's, yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
that's just, I think we are probably going to say the same thing. That's
Yeah.
what people are looking for, that whole person, because then we can show up as our true selves and we can be honest and say, yeah, this isn't the easiest day, but I have context as to why, and here's how I'm going to keep nurturing myself
Hmm.
throughout. So
Yeah. I feel like, there's the stigma of, it's like women being emotional and unpredictable, and some, through more of an unhealed lens, may say crazy. And I think the challenge that a lot of women face is they don't have, like, deep down they know that they're not crazy. And deep down they know they're feeling a certain way for a reason, and it's valid what they're feeling. And but like, because they don't truly understand why and why it's happening then, or even when it is happening, like, okay, I'm upset about this and I cannot let it go, how do I tackle this type of thing? It's because they're missing that body literacy part of it, where it's like, you can't advocate for I believe it will be harder to advocate for the change that we want to see with how women are viewed without women even like understanding it. Like, we can't say respect what I'm saying, like, hear me. Like, how many times do you hear the stories of like women going to their doctors and their doctors are like, well, it's because you're a mom. Well, that's just life. Well, whatever, maybe it's all in your head. And then we get really upset because like we know that there's more to it, but then we're stuck because we don't feel empowered to be like, well, no, this is why, or this is the case, or this is whatever, and we can't make, I feel like without understanding and awareness and the education, we cannot advocate for the change that we want to see and that women's health deserves.
Yeah. So really taking that ownership of what's
Mm-hmm.
currently happening and being able to clearly and effectively articulate those experiences, which, like you said, comes from that awareness piece of all of the different habits. Like, what are my experiences? How has
Yeah.
that impacted my beliefs? How has that led to the habits that I have today?
Mm-hmm.
And or what of those do I want to keep or change? And
Yeah.
how do I get the right people on my team to support me on that journey? Whether that's
Right.
you as a coach, whether that's a medical professional, a mental health provider, there's so many people that can contribute from a professional standpoint to supporting people throughout their well-being journey. And that's one
Mm-hmm.
thing at Wellbeing Connections we really believe in is that team approach of who are
Yeah.
those people that you need to help you along your journey, because we're not meant to do it alone.
No.
We need that community, we need that connection, and that's so fundamental to the human experience. And so I think that's awesome that you're helping women advocate for themselves and being
Mm-hmm.
able to articulate and share that awareness, to get curious and maybe not judgmental about
Yeah.
why we are doing the things we're doing, but to say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, where might that be coming from? Again, that coming in with fresh eyes from that as neutral perspective as we can,
Mm-hmm.
without as with as little judgment as possible, of saying, okay, hey, here's the what's true to me, and how do I move forward with that in a
Mm-hmm.
way that aligns with who I am, with my beliefs and values and priorities. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's such an empowering, I know you've used that word a couple different times here as we've chatted, but that's such an empowering position to
Yeah.
take, because then it allows you to move forward in a way that really truly aligns with each individual. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so when you think, Amanda, when you are connecting with clients, what are some of your favorite ways that you enjoy connecting with your clients, or things that you've heard from clients that are like, hey, this was super valuable that you want to share with our community?
I feel like the most common feedback that I get that I just eat up, and it's it's so simple, but I feel like it's I don't know, like it makes me emotional. It's just like now I understand why.
Yeah.
And it's like now, I mean, like going back, I mean, something as superficial or little as running. I mean, running wasn't ever like running has is like my form of like movement, like meditative movement. And
Yes.
it's a clearing of anxious energy. It's a tool in my health kit that I have. So like running isn't necessarily small for me, but I know like in a grand scheme, kind of outside looking in, like someone could be like, oh, her runs kind of sucked every once in a while. What's the big deal? But
Yeah.
that that was something where it's like for running, like it got me through a really challenging time in my life. And then it evolved from there on what it means to me. So it became a really big bump in the road when my runs wouldn't perform. And it's just like, so something that became, that was not just a physical thing, but really a mental and emotional
Yeah.
tool in my kit when my runs didn't perform. And I didn't act like I'd come home from a run and my husband be like, "Well, how's the run?" Like it's just he always does it. And like the one it's like if it were, now I know like during a certain phase, like post ovulation basically, run and I had to slow down or I had to take walk breaks, like that was the first thing that I'd say is like, well, I had to stop and take a walk.
Right.
And at the time, like I was like, I would carry that. Like so it's like here's my shame flag where it's like I'm a runner, but it was my butt that I kept adding on. And it's like, but I had to take a walk break, but I wasn't as fast as I normally was. So I'm like diminishing something that means a lot to me. And just having that, like the more I started really learning about my body and how much our cycle impacts my body and really I mean, because you can learn about it, but then really when you take that and you put it into the active form of like applying it to your life and how I moved from that. Like it didn't turn, like I was able to get rid of that but. Even for me, where it's just like I went, Kevin, how was your run? It was good. I went slower, but it felt good because I know that's what my body needed. And
Yeah.
it was still really beneficial. And, so it's like being able to help women and get to see those moments and then get that feedback from them where it's like, well, now I know why. And now I can tackle this and I understand like if I'm taking on a big project, I'm not going to, and they have the freedom and flexibility to determine when they start that project or things
Yeah.
like that. Like, well, I'm not going to start it during this part of my cycle because I'm not, like my mental clarity is super foggy. So I'm just not going to do it then.
Yep.
I'm going to choose to do it now. Like it's validating that belief that you are not less than, you are not crazy, you are not defective. It's you are a woman and you get to be a woman and understand your body as a woman. And it's like I can almost see like the shackles that they've been carrying, like just let go.
Hear in your voice the relief of your clients, like the weight
Yeah.
coming off their shoulders of like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
I understand where my just understand, like you said, that body literacy, understand all of the factors at play versus beating myself up for something that I didn't
Mhm.
know. It's kind of that phrase, you don't know
Yeah.
what you don't know. And so when
Yeah.
you don't have that piece of the puzzle,
Mhm.
it's the round peg in a square hole. It's
Yeah.
close, but it's just not quite the right fit. And so
Yeah.
when you really get that chance to help somebody fill up that peg space in the way that
Mhm.
they're meant to be and show up in the world, that I can just hear that's like that's the juice that keeps you going is
Yeah.
them fill in those gaps with understanding, with compassion, with strategies and tools, with just that awareness of, oh, I never knew that. No one shared
Mhm.
that information with me. And here's how that shows up in my life, in my certain
Yeah.
situation. Because each individual does have different circumstances, whether that's
Yeah.
a business owner who does have that flexibility to say, hey, I'm going to start this project tomorrow while my
Yeah.
energy is up. And then I'm going to hammer in for the next 3 days so I get a head start. So when I move into the next phase of my cycle, I
Mhm.
have a little buffer. So that way, when the mental clarity isn't there, I can give myself permission to maybe take that leisure walk around the
Yeah.
block and say, you know what, we'll jump into that tomorrow, or we'll do
Mhm.
it again. Just that, again, that application to actually giving yourself grace and understand.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's too like I think, it's like even if women work in outside of the home and they don't have that flexibility to shift things around, like even understanding like it's not an all or nothing. It's like if you're working in an environment that operates in masculine energy, is very routine and is very structured, and there's not a lot of flexibility there are ways to still honor where you're at in that environment. Like to me it's like I don't I it's like I tell people, I'm like, you can't claim feminine empowerment, I am woman, hear me roar, by abandoning everything that makes you a woman. Because then do you really believe that? So it's like, let me show you how you can hit all of your goals. Like I'm not here to say like, oh, like to live cyclically you have to be at home and barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen all the time, because that's
Yeah.
that's not everyone's goal, or that's not their goal right now, or that was their goal and now they have a new one. Like life evolves, we're allowed to evolve with it. Let me show you that like you're not stuck. You're not a victim of a system. You're not a victim of a corporation. Like you can still show up the way that you need to. And then you know what? If you decide that this is a good fit, I can keep going, great. Maybe you decide that it's not. And then you have to you get to stop forcing something that you realized was never your goal or your passion project to begin with. Like
Right.
that's where things get juicy when we come across those bridges. But like
Totally.
there's you don't, the only one that's holding you back is you. And
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you that like you can show up as a woman, honor your cycle, honor where you're at, lean into your femininity while still achieving everything that you want.
Yeah. When 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 two conflicting things can still be true at the same time. You can
Yes.
still honor and lean into that feminine energy in a masculine
Hmm.
dominated world, and both things can still coexist successfully.
Yeah.
It's just what does that look like for each one of us? And that's where
Yeah.
you get to come alongside your
Yeah.
clients and the women that you serve and just really help be that cheerleader for them as they
Hmm.
navigate, hey, what does that look like? And knowing that those things are going to change, whether you are in the season of, hey, I'm here to grind it out and climb
Yeah.
whatever ladder that is that they're climbing, or I'm ready to
Yeah.
take the step back and lean into that, maybe that
Hmm.
mothering phase of, okay, hey, this is my purpose right now, or all of the phases in between. Again, those are
Yeah.
just two examples of the thousands of lives that are lived
Yeah.
and combinations. But again, it's that conflicting. It seems that we have to make a choice, but
Yeah.
you're here to tell us that we can still lean into that feminine energy, understand our cycle, and still live in a world where we can still achieve goals and we can
Yeah.
still move the needle. It's just what needle do we want to move, and who do we need on our team to help support us on that
Yep.
journey?
Yeah. I mean, the masculine and the feminine, both in human examples and in energy examples, were made to complement and support one each other, not be competitive with each
Yeah,
other. So it's like the masculine really offers that it ultimately everything that falls under like the masculine energy, a masculine approach to things ultimately provides safety, where then the feminine gets to show up and thrive. The feminine is a less type of expression of things. So it's like you need that safety
yeah,
to let that surface. And then the feminine, with her softness and her emotions and her nurturing and all of that, gives the masculine meaning. It is masculine provides the safety for the feminine provides the meaning for the masculine. And that I see that being shown in society, again, with people, within relationships, and then within ourselves too, because I mean, even our cycle, like there parts of our cycle, we are more primed for some of that masculine energy to be
yeah,
more
right.
expressive. And then the other part of our cycle, we are primed to have more of that feminine be more like mostly
Right.
expressed to. So yeah, it's like it's about complementing and coexisting with the two and not competing with the two.
Yeah, I love that phrase, that compliment versus compete. I think so
Yeah.
much in our world today, we're taught that competition drives everything forward versus
Yeah.
that compliment, that harmony. How do
Hmm.
we, it's not always 50-50. It's
Yeah.
sometimes it's 80-20, and that 80-20
Yeah.
will sway in both favors, or all of the different hats that we wear in life. And so finding those ways to open up that mindset of saying,
Hmm.
hey, these two things aren't so rigid. It's not so clear. And again, giving yourself permission to not have them compete, but to
Yeah.
complement each other. I love that phrase. That's going to be one that I know we've chatted a number of times.
Yeah.
It's definitely a new one that I'm going to be taking away for myself, because I think it
Yeah.
gives so much context to
Yeah.
it is especially of, okay, how does this work together
Hmm.
versus how do I pick the right one?
Yeah.
As a perfectionist, I'm always looking for what was the answer.
Yeah.
But again, it's not necessarily the right answer. It's not a yes or a no. It's how do they
Yeah.
complement together? How do they work together to again
Hmm.
move forward for that greater good? So
Yep.
I think that's super exciting. I know, like I said, for me, that's going to be a nice little tangible takeaway from our conversation
Yes.
today.
Oh, I'm glad that you're gonna have a tangible takeaway. That's exciting for
Yes,
me.
absolutely, absolutely. So, Amanda, what does Amanda White Wellness, what do you have coming up that you're excited about to kind of continue to share and bring this information to women who are interested or looking for support?
Yeah. So, I'm actually collaborating with a local pelvic floor therapist in the area, Sarah, Dr. Sarah Panic with Prosper Physical Therapy. So later on this month, we're going to host a mom, me, and menstruation event. So the whole goal there is for moms to come with their young daughters, who are about to either start their menstrual cycle or recently have, and really start to shift the way that we teach our younger generation about what it's like to enter into womanhood and to start your menstrual cycle, because there's a lot of clients that I've worked with, a lot of women that I've worked with where, a very common a common story where, it's like the same thing, just slightly different variations of it, where it's just, well, now you're a woman. It's gonna suck. You have one good week a month. Here are some period products, which again, they suck because you're gonna have to change them. And now this is really hard, and you're gonna feel crazy. And that's that. Like it's our introduction to it is lacking. I feel like even when I look back in school and I received like the talk in school, it was all just very anatomical, a
Yeah.
little bit of physiological stuff that was going on too with it. But not connecting like, here's when estrogen's high. This is how estrogen makes you think and feel. Here's when progesterone's high. Here's how progesterone makes you think and feel. And then you get a spike of testosterone, which like I hear testosterone, I always thought men, and I was like, wait, I have testosterone and it spikes? Like, what are you talking about? So, and when that happens and why, like how that makes you feel. So, really changing the way, introducing it in a small, fun, safe environment about talking about this, helping moms be having them have the tools and the understanding
Yeah.
on how to support their daughters through this, and then really being one of the hopefully first, second, third people maybe to come into a young woman's life and explain the menstrual cycle and what it's like to get into that um, in a much more positive way.
Yeah, really equipping not only the young girls, the young women, but also the mothers with
Yes.
the understanding and a new way of framing this
Yeah.
phase of life. Not
Yeah.
only giving the context from a truly physical anatomical perspective, but giving that context, that understanding of what things are changing and why. Again, so
Yeah.
maybe there's not the back work to do, like maybe your clients who you're seeing today, where they're
Hmm.
just learning all of that now. You're looking
Yeah.
to proactively equip these girls and their
Yeah.
supportive women in their life with this information and saying, hey, this is how you get to move through this, and here's what this
Yeah.
means, and here's some understanding as to why that's happening, really shifting that narrative from that kind of leaning negative, right? It does often
Yeah.
lean negative, and so really shifting that into that more positive, that realistic understanding of it, so you can really
Yeah.
feel empowered with what your body is going through. That body literacy phrase
Yeah.
you shared earlier, like how empowering it is to know what's happening in your body, to give you
Hmm.
that understanding, that why, so those girls never maybe put that weight on their shoulders.
Yeah.
You can take let them take their backpack of baggage off before they
Yeah.
have to put it on.
It's very, very new. And won't actually come to fruition with things until probably like 6, 9 months from now. But I've decided to pursue it's FEMM, teacher certification, which is ultimately natural family planning. So, really taking a deeper dive and a deeper understanding with really good scientific backed evidence, and that has helped with like how you interpret your cycle from a fertility standpoint, because that's one thing I've started to understand is like you have your cycle. The next step of that is, when do you actually ovulate, or are you having a cycle where you don't ovulate? And if whether you ovulate or not, that's a whole nother indicator of physical health that's going on inside of your body. So really being able to have that formal training and add that into my repertoire, because I do really enjoy working with like first time moms, soon to be moms, things like that, because that's such a big pivotal point in a woman's life where really having that connection to self and that mama gut instinct is so important.
Yeah.
So being able to really come alongside women to understanding their body from a fertility aspect, hopefully taking some of that stress and that unknown away of trying to conceive, and then also bringing in like that coaching aspect of it too, where it's just like, this is a new phase of life. Like,
For sure.
let's start figuring out, how do you want to show up as a mom? How do you feel about pregnancy and being a mom? And because like I mean, my daughter will ask me, like just last week, she's like, Mom, what did you want to be when you were young? And I'm like, I knew I wanted to be a mom, and
Mhm.
that's it. It's like I've done obviously things since then, but like that's
Totally.
what I knew. But then when it came, even with me reflecting back on that, like when it came time where I was pregnant, and then even like after I had my son and I came home with him, I was just like, I I don't even know where to start with this. So like just being able to have I mean, there's a lot of unknowns, but having helping to bring in that confidence through knowing your inner dialogue and your connection to your body, and not discounting everything that your body just went through, giving yourself grace in that postpartum period, trusting your body, is something that I'm like stupid excited about. So
I love that. Well, you guys
yeah.
heard it here first. So
Yes. Yeah.
exciting, Amanda. I think it does, like you say, it complements what you're already
Yeah.
doing really well and plays into a little bit more that clinical side of understanding from a different lane and how it
Yeah.
kind of naturally builds and progresses your clients with you, but also really empowering to apply those things to get started from that. Okay, hey, how am I starting off my parenting journey, my mothering journey?
Hmm.
On a foot that feels good and aligned with who I
Yeah.
am and how I see this. And that does take that prep work because yeah, they send you home with the baby, but they don't send you home with any instruction manuals or
No.
anything
No.
that kind of just pat you on the butter back and say good luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
So really to help women be confident in that as they enter in that new stage with that confidence, that understanding, and that trust in themselves
Hmm.
and what they know to be true for them is
Yeah.
going to be an awesome service that we can't wait to
Yeah.
for because that's super exciting. So we'll
Yeah.
be tuned for that. I love a good cliffhanger too, because again,
Yeah.
who's coming back for a little bit more. So
Yeah.
looking for that in the next 6 to 9 months. Where
Hmm.
can people find you, reach out to you, connect with you for more information about specifics on services that you offer?
Yeah. So, just because like I feel like in real life has gotten the shift in things has changed, where so like in real life, more of my energy has been going there. So I am still present on social media. It's just I am not as I don't post all the time, but that's
Yeah.
not to say information that I haven't, like I still stand behind a lot of the information that I have posted. So amanda.white.rn is like the handle for both Facebook and Instagram. I only
Awesome.
have the one, so it's like you'll get both my personal life and my professional life. So woohoo for
Wonderful.
that. And then email is just hello at amandawhitewellness.com. And then I do have my website, which is basically just my scheduling platform, because prior to working with someone, I don't have I do a free consult, 60-minute consult first, to really ID their pain points, make sure I feel confident that I can support them and that I'm someone that they would feel confident in working with.
Yeah.
So they can schedule that consult through my scheduling platform, and that is Amanda White, or yeah, Amanda White Wellness dot cohere, so COHERE.live.
Okay.
But that's also on my social media too. So it's like you can find
We
me all
will
the ways.
we will put those things accordingly just so that way we
Okay.
can make it easy for people. But just to recap, you're on Instagram and Facebook as well
Yeah.
as email you. It sounds like
Yes.
maybe a good way to connect directly
Yes. Yep.
at hello at Amanda White Wellness. And from there, your scheduling platform for a
Yeah.
free kind of initial assessment of, hey, are we a good fit?
Yeah.
Is something they can find on your social channels as well.
Yep. Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time, Amanda. I can't wait
Yeah.
to go to see where this takes you. And like I
Yeah.
said, I will be back for sure, taking my compliment versus complete compete statement
Yes.
away, but also looking forward to seeing where that fertility
Yeah.
information kind of grows for you. That's super exciting. So thank you
Hmm.
for taking time to chat with us. We'll be in touch.
All right, perfect. Thank you.